We all know about the shootings. We all know about American gun violence and propositional gun control. We all know about the NRA and March for Our Lives. We all know about the politics surrounding firearms, but on an individual level, few know anything about firearms themselves, nor have few given it any independent thought. Before taking a positive stance on gun control, I encourage advocates to educate themselves on firearms and ultimately reconsider that the reinforcement they seek may not come from banning firearms. According to the Pew Research Center, 3 in 10 American adults say they personally own a firearm, and an additional 11% say they live with somebody else who does. If we combine these two statistics, I can guarantee you that 41% of Americans live with a gun and 59% of Americans don't. Considering the gap between these two groups, the lack of knowledge regarding firearms is understandable. To gun control advocates, however, having no experience with firearms while determining their relevance in modern American society may seem permissible. After all, the news and politics are readily available sources of information regarding this issue. However, as Snopes can point out, during the 10th Democratic debate, Joe Biden once cited that there are 150 million people dead from gun violence since 2007. He equated this to more than all the wars, including Vietnam, from that point onward. Considering there are 328.2 million residents currently residing in the United States, that would have to mean that roughly half of the Americans are dead in their graves as we speak. This would be the equivalent of Thanos snapping and half of the Americans turning to ashes like it was Marvel's Endgame. I know this comparison is ludicrous, but that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make. Gathering information and statistics from the media to use as a gun control argument is impractical. As an advocate, what do you personally know about firearms beyond what the media tells you? If I asked you right this second, could you tell me the difference between a clip and a magazine? If I asked you right this second, can you tell me that the AR and AR-15 stands for Armalite Rifle and not Assault Rifle? If I were to ask you right now, can you tell me what a caliber is? If all of this language is Greek to you, how can you push legislation on something that you are so unfamiliar with? For those who agree with gun control advocates because they petition for safety, also know that gun owners petition for safety in more ways than advocates. Firearm safety guidelines are featured in owner's manuals whenever residents purchase a gun. They are featured at safety at gun ranges whenever they go shooting, and they are taught by family members within gun-owning families. These are the 4 rules that I am discussing. Always assume a gun is loaded even if it is not. Always point a gun in a safe direction at all times. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, and know what is beyond your target. I mention these rules because 8th graders in Iowa are now learning these same exact rules. As a matter of fact, the superintendent made it part of their physical education curriculum, according to Como News. As alarming as this may seem in a world of gun-free zones, you should also realize that our great-grandfathers received the same firearms curriculum over 100 years ago. A black and white archival photo was posted by the New York Post upon the closure of Far Rockaway High School in 2011 in New York. This photo clearly shows the school shooting range, and it's dated May 1929. Within that era, shooting ranges were as common as football fields and tennis courts in schools. Now I want you to sit back for a second and think about this. If schools back then had shooting ranges, why didn't they have shootings? Why weren't students dropping dead in the hallways from gunfire? They were taught responsibility and they were taught discipline. I think that this system is perfect, and going back where they're trying to re-implement this, I support it. The mass shooting crisis is indeed serious and requires immediate attention. Nobody is disputing that. However, the reinforcement that many would like to see will not come from banning firearms and leaving many in the dark about their existence. The Second Amendment makes firearms integral to American culture, and a look into the past, i.e. the school shooting ranges, can support that when Americans embraced this heritage instead of rejecting it, society was safer and more responsible with their weapons. The remedy to the mass shooting epidemic must come from the American public rallying together. Pro-gunners, anti-gunners, unite. When guns are given a new meaning and a dignified purpose, the shootings will be subdued and peace can ensue.